It's 2025, and something has changed over Ukrainian skies. Russian pilots who once ruled these airspaces now face hunters they never expected. F-16s loaded with Western missiles patrol corridors that belonged to Moscow just months ago. Down below, long-range strikes are hitting airfields and fuel depots that used to sit safely out of reach. In occupied Crimea, the patrol ships that once hugged the coastline are now resting on the seabed. The balance has shifted, and it's shifted hard. Ukraine isn't just defending anymore. They're fighting back with modern systems that can punish Russia at distances in the air and at sea. What changed everything isn't just what Ukraine can fire now, it's where those shots can actually land. ATACMS and Storm Shadow missiles are pushing this war deep into Russian territory. Naval drones opened up a whole new front on the Black Sea that Moscow never saw coming. Patriots and IRIS-T systems turned Russian missile campaigns into expensive failures. Then came the F-16s. Trained through programs spanning from Denmark to Romania, these jets tie all these systems together into something Russia's aging air force simply cannot match. But here's what everyone wants to know. How did Ukraine go from fighting with Soviet leftovers to making Russian generals lose sleep at night? February 24th, 2022. When Russia rolled across the border, Ukraine was fighting with equipment from a collapsed empire. MiG-29s, Su-27s, S-300s, and armor that had seen better decades. Russian planners counted on exactly this. They expected Ukraine's military to crumble under pressure from forces equipped with modern systems. Fast forward to late 2023 and through 2024, something remarkable started happening. Western weapons began arriving in layers that completely changed the game. First came HIMARS and ATACMS for deep strikes, then Storm Shadow and Scalp missiles for surgical hits on command centers. Leopard 2 and Challenger 2 tanks rolled in for breakthrough operations. NASAMS and Patriot systems arrived to create air defense that actually works. Finally, IRIS-T and SAMP/T systems plugged every gap Russia tried to exploit. This wasn't just getting new toys, this was transforming from a force that could only react into one that could reach back and hurt Russia where it counts. Long-range missiles started cracking airfields and command centers far behind the front lines. Maritime drones forced Russia's Black Sea fleet to run from Sevastopol. Air defenses began swatting down Kinzhal missiles over Kyiv with success rates that left Russian designers scratching their heads. Every single step took away Russia's options for applying pressure. But who exactly handed Ukraine these game-changing capabilities? The answer is simple. Ukraine isn't fighting alone. They're backed by the world's most advanced military powers, and each one brought something different to the table. The United States stepped up first with HIMARS launchers, then ATACMS missiles in two waves. The cluster warhead M39 arrived in October 2023, followed by longer-range versions that smashed Jankoy Airfield in Crimea by April 2024. They also sent Patriot batteries, NASAMS systems, Abrams tanks, and AGM-88 HARM missiles that Ukraine adapted to their Soviet jets. Britain and France gave Ukraine the reach it desperately needed. Storm Shadow from Britain and Scalp EG from France delivered cruise missiles that could hit strategic targets deep in Crimea. These weapons struck the Black Sea Fleet headquarters in Sevastopol on September 22, 2023, forcing Russian commanders to scatter their entire operation. The UK also shipped Challenger 2 tanks that punched through Russian defensive lines. Germany became the backbone of Ukraine's armored power. Leopard 2 tanks now form the core of Ukrainian armored operations. IRIS-T air defense systems shoot down missiles and drones with precision Russian planners never anticipated. Multi-year packages keep expanding IRIS-T production through 2025, ensuring steady supplies of interceptors. Italy and France teamed up to deliver SAMP/TMAMBO long-range air defense in 2023. Italy announced a second battery in 2024, creating layered protection around critical infrastructure that Russian missiles struggle to penetrate. The Netherlands, Denmark, Norway, and Belgium brought the crown jewel, F-16s, and the training programs to make them deadly. Aircraft pledges and European training centers in Denmark and Romania are turning Ukrainian pilots into NATO standard operators. This coalition model does something Russia can't counter. It multiplies Ukraine's options while creating supply depth that one country alone never could. Ukraine is fighting with the combined industrial might of the world's most advanced military powers. So how do these systems actually perform when the shooting starts? July 2023 marked the beginning of something big. Coalition partners set up training centers at Skrydstrup, Denmark, and the European F-16 training center in Fătești, Romania. The Netherlands pushed jets into the Romanian hub by April 2024. The Danish program started with 8 Ukrainian pilots and kept expanding as coalition pledges climbed past 70 aircraft. Here's what happened next. November 13, 2023, Romania opens its training center for Ukrainian pilots. August 2023, Denmark welcomes the first 8 Ukrainian pilots for conversion training. April 17, 2024, the Netherlands delivers 3 more F-16s to accelerate the program. But why do F-16s matter so much? These jets carry modern AIM-1 20 AMRAAM and AIM-9 missiles that can reach targets far beyond anything Russia flies. They connect with NATO radar networks and team up with HARM missiles for missions that wipe out Russian air defenses. Ukraine already proved they could fire HARM missiles from their old MiG-29s and Su-27s, so their crews weren't starting from scratch with Western weapons. The real upgrade comes from radar systems, data links, survivability features, and access to Western ammunition that Russian aircraft simply can't match. Partners started moving aircraft to Ukraine in 2024, with combat operations expanding through 2025 as pilot experience and maintenance capabilities mature. Russian pilots who used to own Ukrainian airspace now face hunters equipped with weapons that see farther, fly faster, and hit harder than anything Moscow produces. But air superiority is just one part of Ukraine's new advantage. Ukraine's new long-range weapons are rewriting the rules of this war. Storm Shadow and Scalp-EG missiles can reach targets 250 kilometers away. These low-flying cruise missiles sneak under Russian radar and hit with surgical precision. September 22, 2023, Sevastopol, Crimea. Storm Shadow missiles slammed into the Black Sea Fleet headquarters, crippling command operations and forcing Russian naval assets to flee their home port. One strike changed how Russia operates across the entire Black Sea. ATACMS missiles arrived in 2 phases that devastated Russian operations. October 2023 brought cluster warhead M39 rounds that Ukraine used to strike Berdyansk and Luhansk airfields, destroying helicopters and ammunition stockpiles in single attacks. By April 17, 2024, longer-range ATACMS hit Jankoy Air Base in Crimea, denying Russia a critical staging area for southern operations. These weapons destroy targets Russian planners assumed were safely out of reach. Airfields, missile sites, and command centers that used to operate with impunity now face constant threat. Commanders in Crimea lost their secure bases. Helicopters started taking losses far from any front line. Russia's ability to launch glide bomb attacks shrank as airfield damage piled up. Every successful strike forces Russian operations farther from Ukrainian targets, cutting effectiveness while driving up fuel costs and response times. When Ukraine hits the Tuapse refinery again, where exactly does Russia load their fuel next time? Each strike creates problems that ripple through Russian logistics networks. Ukraine turned the humble drone into a weapon of war that's reshaping everything. Bayraktar TB2 drones grabbed headlines in 2022 with their precision strikes on Russian convoys. But the real game changer comes from Ukrainian innovation, FPV strike drones that cost under $1,000 each but destroy Russian tanks worth millions. Ukrainian forces report cost ratios exceeding 600-to-1 in some battles. Long-range drones now hit targets deep inside Russia with devastating results. May 17, 2024, Ukrainian drones sparked fires at Tuapse refinery that shut down production for weeks. July 22, 2024, they hit Tuapse again, extending shutdowns and forcing Russia to reroute fuel supplies. By February and August 2025, repeated strikes on Ryazan refinery created fuel shortages that affected military operations. But the real shock came at sea. Naval drones opened a front Russia never planned for. February 14, 2024. Ukrainian Megara Fa 5C drones sank the landing ship Caesar Kunikov off Crimea. Video footage showed explosions that literally broke the ship's back. March 5, 2024, Sea drones hit and sank patrol ship Sergei Kotov again off Crimea. February 1st, 2024, Ukraine claimed another kill with the missile corvette Ivanovets. These hits forced Russia's Black Sea Fleet to abandon Sevastopol and operate from much farther away. Every ship that retreats reduces missile launch platforms threatening Odesa and keeps grain shipping lanes open. The math is brutal. Sea drones cost thousands but can sink warships worth hundreds of millions in minutes. With Russian ships fleeing Sevastopol, what about control of the skies? Ukraine built something Russia never expected, an air defense network that actually works. Patriot systems proved their worth on May 6, 2023, when Ukrainian operators shot down Kinzhal missiles over Kyiv. Russia had claimed these weapons were unstoppable. Ukrainian defenders proved otherwise. May 16th and 17th brought more Kinzhal intercepts over the capital, and the Patriot system survived concentrated Russian strikes designed to destroy it. IRIS-T systems from Germany added another layer of protection. 7 batteries delivered by mid-2025, with production ramping up as Berlin expands orders and output. NASAMS arrived in November 2022 with additional units from the US, Norway, and Canada. Norway announced plans in February 2024 for more launchers dedicated to Ukraine. Canada's donated battery arrived in late 2024. SAMP-T systems from France and Italy fielded their first battery in spring 2023, with Italy adding a second in 2024. This gives Ukraine European ballistic missile defense to complement American Patriot systems. The results speak for themselves. Ukraine now intercepts most drones and missiles aimed at cities. The shield isn't perfect, but it cut the success rate of Russian attacks on Kyiv while forcing Moscow to waste more cruise missiles and drones for much less effect. Ukrainian officials reported over 7,000 Russian drones launched in 2024. Most were intercepted or knocked off course. Russian missile campaigns that once terrorized entire cities now burn up in Ukrainian skies before reaching their targets. Russia faces problems that multiply faster than they can solve them. Sanctions cut access to high-end computer chips that modern weapons need. Their defense factories can work around some restrictions, but the costs keep climbing while quality keeps dropping. Ukraine's strikes on fuel depots and supply nodes make these problems worse by disrupting the logistics that keep factories running. Aircraft losses hurt Russia, where replacement takes years. Ukraine shot down multiple A-50 radar planes in 2024, shrinking Russian surveillance coverage across southern and eastern sectors. These specialized aircraft take forever to replace. ATACMS strikes on airfields also deny the bases Russia uses for bombing runs, forcing operations farther from targets. Naval operations around Crimea became impossible to secure. Sea drones attack from every direction, and defending all approaches costs more than Russia can afford when drone swarms are cheap enough to keep trying. Each successful attack forces more defensive measures that drain resources from other operations. Meanwhile, Ukraine's coalition keeps expanding capabilities. Germany boosts IRIS-T production. Italy and France add more SAMP-T batteries. Norway and Canada feed NASAMS systems. The US and European partners coordinate supply flows for air defense and ATACMS throughout 2024 to 2025. This eliminates the weak points Russia might exploit. When one supplier faces constraints, others fill the gaps. Russia fights mostly alone, while Ukraine draws from the combined industrial capacity of dozens of nations. Every month brings new systems that outclass Russian equipment. Every successful Ukrainian strike forces expensive Russian adaptations. Every intercepted missile proves Russian weapons waste resources for minimal results. Ukraine proved that modern warfare follows completely different rules than anyone expected. Precision matters more than numbers. Smart targeting beats mass production. Soviet-era thinking crashes into NATO-standard weapons and loses every time. Look at the measurable changes in Russian behavior. Ships sunk by naval drones pushed their fleet away from Sevastopol. Caesar Kunikov went down February 14, 2024. Sergei Kotov sank March 5, 2024. These aren't propaganda claims. Video evidence and satellite photos confirm every loss. These defeats limit Russia's ability to threaten Odesa and shipping lanes. Drone strikes on refineries like Tuapse, Novorossiysk, and Ryazan throughout 2024 to 2025 created fuel shortages that drove up prices inside Russia and disrupted military logistics. Every successful strike forces Russia to defend more territory with fewer resources, while Ukraine's capabilities keep expanding. This war proves that future conflicts belong to whoever adapts fastest, strikes smartest, and uses technology most effectively. Raw firepower without precision becomes expensive noise. Mass without mobility becomes a sitting target. Russia entered expecting to fight Ukraine's military. Instead, they face a coalition armed with the world's most advanced weapons, operated by forces that learn faster than Russian doctrine can adapt. The math of attrition favors Ukraine because every Russian loss costs more to replace than Ukrainian capabilities cost to build. The question now isn't whether Ukraine can hold its own, it's whether we're watching the end of traditional military superpowers and the birth of warfare where technology trumps territory. The answer might determine how every future conflict gets fought. If Ukraine keeps proving that smart beats big, what does that mean for militaries around the world? Are we seeing the future of warfare, or just a temporary shift that larger powers will eventually overcome? The battles happening right now in Ukraine aren't just deciding this war, they're writing the playbook for every war that comes next.